In 1997, something enormous screamed from 5 kilometers beneath the ocean, and no one knows what made it. Scientists named it the Bloop, one of the loudest sounds ever recorded beneath the ocean. The sound was too powerful for any known animal, but no one has ever found its true source. It was the summer of 1997. Somewhere in the South Pacific Ocean, far from any coastline, a secret listening network sat silently beneath the waves. This system, the Equatorial Pacific Ocean Autonomous Hydrophone Array, had been built by the U.S. Navy during the Cold War for one purpose: to listen for Soviet submarines. When the Cold War ended, the network was handed over to NOAA, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Its new job was quieter, but no less important: tracking underwater earthquakes, volcanic activity, and the calls of marine life across the Pacific. But that year, the hydrophones picked up something nobody expected: an ultra-low frequency sound. Extremely powerful. Scientists would later give it a name that sounds almost playful: the Bloop. But what it represented was anything but playful. The sound lasted only about a minute, rising steadily in pitch, and yet its power was so immense that sensors more than 5,000 kilometers apart detected it at the same time. 5,000 kilometers. That's roughly the distance from London to Karachi. Imagine a single sound loud enough to be heard clearly across that entire span. Underwater, where sound already travels faster and farther than in air. NOAA's lead acoustician at the time, Christopher Fox, studied the recording closely. He ruled out one obvious explanation almost immediately. This wasn't a submarine, and it wasn't a man-made explosion. The acoustic signature didn't match anything in the Navy's extensive catalog of vessel sounds or detonations. So what was left? The sound's rising frequency pattern was strange. It resembled something biological, the kind of vocal pattern produced by living creatures, not geological events. Many animal calls show this same rapid shift in pitch, but there was a problem. A massive one. If this was an animal, it would have to be louder, far louder than any creature ever recorded on Earth. Louder than a blue whale, the largest animal alive, whose calls are already among the most powerful sounds produced by any living being. Whatever made the Bloop was operating on a different scale entirely. Researchers triangulated its origin to a remote point in the South Pacific, west of the southern tip of South America. A stretch of ocean so isolated that almost no ships passed through it, and almost no data existed about what lived in its depths. No vessel had reported anything unusual in the area. No seismic event matched the pattern in regional databases. The recording sat in NOAA's archives, unexplained, while the story of the Bloop below began to spread, first among acousticians, then among the public. For the first time in decades, a recorded sound from the deep ocean had defied immediate classification, and once word got out, the speculation didn't just begin, it exploded. Once details of the Bloop reached the public in the early 2000s, the story took on a life of its own. The deep ocean has always been humanity's last truly unmapped frontier. We've charted the surface of Mars with more precision than we've charted our own ocean floor. More than 80% of the ocean remains unexplored and unmapped to this day. So when a sound this powerful, this strange, emerged from a region that deep, 5,000 meters down, in near total darkness, under crushing pressure, people didn't just wonder, they imagined. The most popular theory was simple, and it tapped into something ancient in the human mind. What if it's alive? What if something massive, something we've never cataloged, something far larger than a blue whale, exists down there, and the Bloop was its call? Online communities ran with it. Some pointed to the eerie resemblance between the Bloop's location and the fictional coordinates of H.P. Lovecraft's sunken city of R'lyeh, the supposed resting place of his fictional creature, Cthulhu. The internet connected the dots almost instantly, and the legend grew far beyond anything NOAA had intended. But here's what almost never made it into the viral versions of the story. NOAA's own scientist, Christopher Fox, never claimed it was a monster. What he actually said was more careful and far more interesting. He noted that the Bloop's rising frequency pattern did resemble the call structure of a living creature, but that whatever made it would need to be far more powerful than any animal ever documented. That's not the same as saying it's a sea monster. That's a scientist pointing out a genuine anomaly and refusing to force it into a box that didn't fit. Still, the mystery deepened the unease. This wasn't some shallow coastal recording. This was the abyssal zone, water so deep that sunlight has never touched it, where pressure would crush a human body instantly, where entire ecosystems exist that we've only begun to document in the last few decades. Giant squid, anglerfish, creatures with no eyes, adapted to a world of permanent night. If something genuinely unknown lived down there, something capable of producing a sound audible across thousands of kilometers, what else might be moving through that darkness, undetected, for centuries? For nearly 2 decades, NOAA had no definitive answer. The recording remained open, filed, studied, but unsolved. And in that gap, between a real anomaly and a missing explanation, the legend of the Bloop took root in a way few oceanic mysteries ever have. The location was remembered, the sound was archived, and the question lingered, unanswered, for years. The breakthrough didn't come from a research vessel chasing a monster. It came from patience, additional equipment, and a part of the planet most people rarely think about, Antarctica. In the years following the original Bloop recording, NOAA's Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory expanded its hydrophone network, placing new arrays closer to the Antarctic coastline, partly to monitor seafloor earthquakes and volcanic activity in that region. Between 2005 and 2010, researchers conducted extended acoustic surveys in 2 key areas, the Bransfield Strait and the Drake Passage, both notoriously turbulent stretches of water near the southern polar ice. What they found changed everything. These new recordings picked up something called ice quakes, sometimes referred to as cryoseisms. An ice quake happens when a massive piece of ice, often an iceberg breaking away from a glacier, cracks, fractures, or scrapes violently against the seafloor. It's a relatively common event in polar regions. Most ice quakes are too small to notice, but the large ones, the ones involving truly massive ice formations, produce sound profiles that are almost shockingly similar to biological calls. Rising pitch, sustained duration, tremendous power. When NOAA scientists laid the new icequake recording side by side with the original 1997 Bloop spectrogram, the match was undeniable. Same rising frequency curve, same duration profile, same broad spectrum acoustic signature. The only real difference was scale. The Bloop was bigger, louder, and came from a more massive ice event than anything they'd directly observed since. In 2012, 15 years after the original recording, NOAA published its conclusion. the bloop was consistent with noises generated by non-tectonic cryosysms, glacial movements such as ice calving or icebergs scraping against the seabed as they drifted and ran aground. In plain terms, somewhere in the remote Southern Ocean, a colossal piece of ice, likely calving from an Antarctic ice shelf, cracked apart with such force that the sound traveled thousands of kilometers through the water. Cold ocean water carries low-frequency sound extraordinarily efficiently, especially across the deep channels of the Southern Hemisphere. That's why sensors so far apart all caught the same signal. No creature, no monster, no undiscovered abyssal giant. Just ice, ancient, massive, breaking apart under its own weight, the way it has for millions of years, in a part of the world almost nobody was listening to until that network of hydrophones happened to be in place. The case was officially closed, and yet the story didn't fade. If anything, it became more interesting. So why does the bloop still circulate nearly 30 years later when the scientific explanation has existed since 2012? Part of the answer is simple. The explanation, while solid, doesn't erase the genuine strangeness of the original moment. For years, one of the most respected acoustic scientists at NOAA looked at this recording and couldn't immediately rule out a biological origin. That's not internet speculation. That's a credentialed expert acknowledging a real, unresolved anomaly using the best tools and data available at the time. The mystery was never fake. It was simply unsolved for longer than most people are comfortable with. There's also something else worth sitting with. The icequake explanation didn't make the deep ocean feel smaller. If anything, it made it feel bigger, because solving the bloop didn't answer the question that made it famous in the first place. What else is down there that we haven't recorded yet? We have better maps of the surface of the moon than we have of our own ocean floor. The abyssal zone, the deep trenches, the regions beneath permanent ice. These remain some of the least explored environments on the entire planet. New species are still being discovered in deep water every single year. Entire ecosystems were unknown to science until manned and unmanned submersibles started reaching depths we'd never properly observed. So, when people say, the ocean still hides things we don't understand, that's not exaggeration. It's documented fact. The bloop happened to get solved. Not every deep ocean acoustic anomaly has been. NOAA's own archives still contain other unexplained or only partially explained sounds, recordings with stranger profiles, fewer comparison points, and no confirmed source to this day. That's really what keeps the bloop alive in public imagination. Not because the mystery is still open, it isn't, but because it's a reminder of how thin our knowledge of the deep ocean actually is. A sound massive enough to cross 5,000 kilometers of open water sat unexplained in a government archive for 15 years. Not because nobody was looking, because the deep ocean simply doesn't give up its answers easily. The bloop wasn't a monster. It was ice, ancient, immense, breaking apart in total darkness, in a place almost no one was listening. But somewhere beyond that hydrophone array, in the parts of the ocean still unmapped and unrecorded, the next unexplained sound is already happening. We just haven't heard it yet. So what created the bloop? Nature, or something still hidden beneath the ocean?